Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hail Yes podcast. I am your host, Hailey Gamba. How is everyone doing today? I have spent this entire week resting because I had what was at least very similar to the flu. And I was on a Z-Pack, so I was kind of resting, being incognito in my house. And honestly, it was quite nice. Even though I don't love the idea of being sick, I do love being able to take a beat and rest up. I am an extremist when it pertains to my Q4 work season, and I tend to just go, go, go. And this kind of forced me into self-care mode. So I'm really grateful that although I didn't feel my best, I was able to just sit back, relax, and slow down. So I'm trying to look for the positives in this particular week, and it was really nice. I was thinking about what I wanted today's topic to be, and I thought about how I've been doing a lot of reflection recently. I have spent so much of my life reflecting. I think it's in my chart as a Cancer. I think we naturally are just very intuitive. We're very introspective, and we love to just go back in time and figure out all the things we did right, wrong, and indifferent in our lives. And that's just the way it is. And I wanted to do an entire episode about red flags to look for within. And a lot of the red flags that I'm going to mention today are ones that I have possessed in the past or ones that I've noticed other people have today. I kind of did a little mix of both because I am not going to completely take myself out of the equation. I don't like to spend episodes fully judging people. I love to judge myself in a healthy way. I like to judge previous versions of myself when I was less self-aware and less mature. And it's a really wonderful thing to realize that you've grown out of certain phases and chapters of your life. I have done so much thinking about who I was in previous relationships, who I was in previous friendships. And although I think overall I'm a pretty decent person, there have been moments in my life where I was nothing of the sort. I was not a decent person. And I think it's important that we acknowledge these things so that we can do better in the future. And I'm actually really proud of myself for coming to this resolution because I think for many years, whenever I would reflect on past versions of myself, I would demonize that version of myself and I would very unproductively make myself the villain in a way that wasn't helpful to my growth. I think now I'm able to really sit back, reflect, and say that wasn't conducive, that wasn't kind, that wasn't great. And how can you be better in the future? And the emotions that I feel when I think about those versions of myself is I feel remorseful or resentful or saddened or disappointed. And those are emotions that mean that you care, mean that you want to do better. And rather than villainizing that person, thank that person for showing you who you aren't today. So I kind of want to go through some of the red flags that I have had issues with in my own life that I've worked on over the past few years, and even some more recently than others. And then also some red flags that I'm noticing in other people that I think if these things are something that you're struggling with or dealing with, maybe just look inward and try to figure out how you can do better. We as humans are just doing life for the first time every day. Every day is a new day, and we are only this age once. And the truth is, we're going to learn as we go, and we're going to learn as we grow. So don't bully yourself for being any of these versions. It's just a part of who you are. And if you choose better and you do better, that's all you can really do to be a better human being overall. So that's something that I wanted to say before we started. Okay, the first red flag that I want to discuss is lack of consideration. This is really important to fixate on in your adult life if you want to be a memorable person. Whenever I think about the things that I want to be remembered for, I want to be someone who's remembered for being kind and considerate and empathetic because those are actual feelings that I feel. Now, naturally, we as humans who have very chaotic, busy lives, we also have mental health struggles, we tend to sometimes sweep things under the rug or we tend to ignore certain things due to our own chaos. And we're not doing it on purpose. We're just doing it because we have a lot going on. And I think a lot of us are inconsiderate subconsciously and not intentionally. We're not doing it to intentionally be rude and inconsiderate, but it just becomes something that we do with time. And I think it's something that we should all work on. I know for me recently that for many years, I was very self-focused. Everything was all about me, and I never really considered the other person when I would make decisions. And I'm not really sure why. I don't think the why is important, but I think the knowing that you're doing it and fixing it is what is important. So, for instance, let's just say you're at a party and you're going and getting a drink and you're chatting with people. And let's just say you're like, oh, I'm going to go excuse myself and grab a drink. Someone who's considerate would ask the other people, hey, like, do you want anything? Do you want anything from the bar? What do you want to drink? I'll grab you something. That's a considerate person. Who I was in the past would be, all right, I'll be back. And in my mind, I'll think, oh, they can just go get their own drink. And now I'm not doing that to be rude. It was just a subconscious mechanism that I naturally was just worried about myself. The older I get, the more I realize that I want to be someone who's considerate. I want to be someone who's thoughtful. And even though it doesn't come natural to me necessarily to always do things for others, if it's no skin off my neck and it's really not that big of a deal, I have taught myself to ask if somebody needs something or to let someone speak when I feel like they need to speak, or just doing certain things that people would naturally glaze over or just not do. Same goes for, let's just say, you're driving in the car, especially if you're a New Jersey or New York driver, you could probably get this. We are just very aggressive drivers in this state. And we won't let people walk and we won't let people go. And for many years, like, let's just say I would see somebody walking towards a crosswalk, I would be like, oh shit, like, let me get through that area so that I don't have to stop for them. Where now I'm like, what is the big deal of stopping at that area to let the person walk? Like, let the person walk. It's not going to take that much time out of my drive anyways, and it's considerate and it's kind. So try to figure out a way in your life to start considering others when you're making decisions, especially things that aren't really that big of a deal. And I think that it will make you more memorable. It will make you someone who feels like you're adding and contributing to society in a positive way. And you're going to look at yourself as a kinder human being. The next thing that I think is a red flag you need to look for within is always being in a rush and making everyone pay for it. I have found that rushing has been a very masculine trait that was placed on me from passed down generations of like my parents always being in a rush and like people around me always being in a rush and making everyone late and making everyone also like irritated and agitated. Something that I'm doing in my life that has really helped me mentally, physically, and emotionally has been slowing down and planning so that I'm a better person to even be around. Being in a rush, constantly having like these knee-jerk reactions and like these outlandish type of vibes that give off, I'm erratic, I'm chaotic, I'm a mess. I am trying to diminish those things day by day. Slowing down is a more feminine trait overall, and it's healthier for your mind. They say that so many women that struggle with autoimmune disorders and different types of issues, whether it's like anxiety, depression, whatever, that a lot of it has to do with their rigorous schedules and them stressing themselves out. So any way to reduce stress in your own life will help you not only emotionally, but also in your health and in your wellness. And it's also something that other people can feel and sense. If you're always in a rush and you're always chaotic and erratic, other people feel that strife. Other people feel that energetic weirdness where you are bringing everyone down and making everyone feel like they also have to be in this heightened state. I have learned to slow down, to plan ahead, to be more feminine. If I'm going to be late anyways, I might as well just be late and still get things done in the timely fashion that I think is important. I'd rather do that than be erratic, than get in the car, drive crazy, put my life at risk and others because I'm driving all over the road trying to get somewhere and I'm having like this stressed out vibe that is just not a good look. I rather just say, you know what, it is what it is. Let the person know you're going to be a little late, drive at a normal speed, get there, feel whatever. Yes, you can be disappointed in yourself for not being on top of it, but I rather that than being someone who's always in this heightened state of chaos and behavior that is very difficult to be around. The next red flag that I think you should look for within is someone who brings everything back to themselves. Essentially a self-centered person, and it's very clear. It's very obvious. I have always been pretty selfish and self-centered. My life was all about me, and my life will always be about me. But I think that the difference between being self-absorbed and self-assured is confidence. I think that self-absorbed people actually lack confidence because if you need everything to be about you, it's not really self-love. It's insecurity. It's you trying to compensate for something. And a really confident person would actually be able to take a seat and let someone else be the star for the day, or let someone else speak, or let someone else have an opinion or a thought or a story to tell. I do not like people who are overly charismatic, overly storytelling, and just always need to be the center of attention. I always pay attention to people like that. I think it's an interesting thing because they are very liked amongst a lot of people and they tend to command a specific presence, but I do notice their face shift when the attention is not on them. When someone else is getting attention, they either try to find a way to get the attention back to themselves or they have a very weird demeanor that looks like they are not happy to be there and they are begrudgingly having to be happy for others. And it's very odd. And I think that this is something that you should work on if this is who you are. If every single friendship, relationship, and conversation that you have with God knows who is always about you, maybe it's time for you to look inward. And I know it sometimes is a defense mechanism. I think a lot of people who are self-absorbed actually were overlooked as children and they had to self-soothe by constantly pouring into themselves. But now is the time for you to relax, to try to unpack your trauma in a healthy way and say, you know what? I appreciate what that did for me and in my growing journey, but now it's time for me to sit back and relax. I used to be very self-focused and self-absorbed, and I think now the word I like to use is self-assured. I assure myself, I validate myself, I feel good about myself, but it doesn't always have to be about me. It doesn't always have to come back to me. Every conversation does not have to be about myself. And it's a beautiful thing because you actually learn more about others. You care deeply about others. You start to figure out what you like and don't like, and it's a weird feeling, but a great feeling. You start to realize even in dating that a lot of your relationships were great because you were constantly fueling them with your thoughts. And if you actually just sit back and listen to people and you absorb what they're saying, you can actually come to a greater thought about who this person is, whether they're good for you, whether they're not, whether you even like what they're saying or you don't. And it's a wonderful feeling to just sit back and listen and not always have to be the one speaking and always have to be the one making a opinion about what you got going on. The next red flag that I think is important to note, and this is for all of my heightened anxiety people who tend to get very combative when in arguments. And as someone who can relate, just know this is a safe space. Combativeness is something that I think we should work on. And I'm going to tell you why. Self-preservation. A lot of the times when people are saying, oh, like, stop being a people pleaser and speak up. And I agree. So for all of the people who have been mutes their entire life and they don't say anything, this is not for you. I think now is your turn to speak up. But I also think that for people who were mutes and who were people pleasers, you need to know how to speak up, because when you do find your voice, a lot of the times you find it in a unproductive way. and it's not helpful, and it doesn't actually get you the clarity and the peace that you're really looking for. Combativeness in situations that are not serving you just make it worse. It just does, because now you're upset with yourself for having an outlandish reaction that probably could have been a little bit calmer. And a lot of the times when we are combative and when we are argumentative and when we are yelling and having these emotional situations, we're not really arguing our point in a way that's productive and helpful to the situation. I think that a better way to handle situations moving forward is to listen, to process, and then respond accordingly. This will allow you to really figure out what you want to say. And let's just say in the moment you don't know what you want to say, then don't say anything. Don't say anything yet. Just sit there, absorb it, say, you know what, I'll get back to you, and maybe write something later or type something out on your computer or in your journal. You can write something and get your feelings out and then maybe talk about it on another day. I have learned to just say okay, especially when someone is either gaslighting me, manipulating me, or trying to argue with me about nothing. Like, a lot of people want to see you get upset. They want to get a reaction out of you, and I don't like giving it anymore. I think for a long time I was giving people exactly what they wanted. I don't want to do that anymore because it's not serving me. I am not happy when I do it, so I don't like doing it. And I think a lot of us who are used to being ridiculed or used to having someone always having an opinion about us, yes, we end up snapping, but then the snapping continues for the remainder of our lives. And I can say that it's not helpful. For many years, I was constantly being berated and treated like shit by certain people in my life. And I didn't really say much, or I didn't know what to say. That when I did find my voice, I found it in a way where I was nasty and combative and not helpful. And now I'm learning that, one, I don't like arguing with people who I know for a fact are trying to get a rise out of me for personal gain. That is very weird to me. Why do you want to see me like that? What are you getting from that? You can always tell when someone is doing that based off of the fact that they are usually not arguing points that are about the topic discussed. They'll try to find ways to hurt you in other aspects of your life. So they'll bring up shit that was old or stuff that's already been resolved, or they'll throw your personality or who you are out there in a way where you feel like, wait, why are you attacking me? That's usually when you can tell that someone is trying to get a rise out of you. If that is what people are doing, it is important to, like I said, sit back, listen, respond accordingly, and try to find ways to shut it down, especially if the person does not have your best interests at heart. I think that having a calm and collective personality will help you in so many aspects of your life, not only in your career, but even in your personal relationships, and you get a lot more respect that way. Another red flag that I would say that you guys need to work on is forgetfulness. It is your responsibility to care enough to remember. And if you have some sort of chronic forgetfulness, well, then you need to get your calendar and plan. You need to make sure that you schedule things. If you're someone who knows that you forget a lot of things, you need to have it pinged in your phone or a calendar on your fridge or something as a reminder. Forgetfulness is rude, and it's just not right. It's just not right. And it could be something as small as like forgetting that you had lunch plans, or it could be something as big as you were supposed to go to someone's surprise party that you love and you didn't show up. It is really important that we acknowledge where we fall short and then we fix it according to that. For many years, I used to just say, well, it is what it is. It's who I am. But that is not an answer. And we are responsible for where we fall short in life. And we are responsible for what it does to others. Now, you don't have to care, but just understand that neither do other people. Other people don't have to take that from you. They don't have to respect that about you. So if you're someone who does that to other people and you don't care, well, then you can't care if they don't want you in their life. So if this is something that means something to you and this is a person that you want to be better with, be less forgetful and find ways to remember more. It's just something that you have to do. It's a part of being an adult. It's a part of being a considerate person, and it will actually enhance your relationships, okay? I used to be very disenchanted with certain holidays and birthdays because I would date someone who would wait until the very last second to do something or forget or just not make it a priority to get me something. And it used to really hurt my feelings because I felt like, how could you forget this? This is an important day. This is an important moment in my life. And it felt very disheartening. And the excuses would pile up because it was excuse after excuse after excuse. And for many years, I accepted the excuses. But then it came to a point where it's like, okay, you need to be adult enough to know that this is an issue that you struggle with. So let's fix it so that you don't keep disappointing me, which also ends up disappointing yourself. Because people who are forgetful, a lot of the times they do hate that they're like that, but they have to fix it. We are responsible for the things that we don't know and that we aren't good at and that we can't do naturally. We have to find ways to better that if it means salvaging a relationship or making one better. And if it also just means being a respectful, considerate person. Another red flag that I think is important to note is having poor energy. It is really crucial that we stop putting our bad energy onto others to deal with. And I am huge on this. Like, I will not be around someone who I feel like has such bad energy. And they know it too. Like, they know that they're miserable and they know that they have a lot going on, and they still want you to take on the load that they are taking because they don't want to be miserable alone. Like that saying goes, misery loves company. I will not give company to misery. I don't want to be a part of it, and I don't like it. When I am going through a hard season in my life, I tend to go through it alone, and not in a way where I'm lonely, but I will let everyone in my life know, hey, it's not the week for me to go out. It's not the week for me to be chit-chatting. I need to take a beat. I need to take care of myself. And I will do that. And I'll be back when I'm feeling better. That's usually what I do. And I think that that's a healthy way to handle it in respect to others. Other people don't need to take on your emotional load. Stop putting your bad energy onto others. It's not nice and it's disrespectful, and it also brings in a cloud of other bad energy people. A lot of bad energy likes to surround themselves with other bad energy. And if you're looking for better experiences, whether it's dating experiences, friendship experiences, and just overall having a better social circle, you need to understand that your energy is what's fueling these experiences. And if you are someone who has the opposite of what it means to have a magnetic aura, maybe you need to look inward and figure out, how can I represent myself better to where I appear, and I actually am, more positive and optimistic. I don't like how people with bad energy are always so demeaning. They are disenchanted by everything. They say no to everything, or they feel indifferent about it. They always need to be convinced times 1,000 that good things do happen. And it's just a very draining and pathetic way to live. I'd rather not be around it, and I'd rather not be it. If I find myself in certain spurts of my life where my energy is really bad, I check it because I'm like, you know what? I rather be a healthy person. I rather be a happy person. So I always check that and try to figure out how I can do an internal audit to fix that so that my energy is no longer that way. And the last thing that I want to discuss, and this is huge, and I'm noticing this with a lot of people, and it's really disappointing to see this a lot, and I'll give you guys an example in a second, but it's having bad social awareness. This kind of goes hand in hand with consideration because I think being a considerate person is usually what someone with social awareness or bad social awareness just doesn't have in them. Like, they're just not considerate. I was at the gym yesterday and I was walking down the stairs and I was behind a woman who was on her phone, and it's like a staircase where you have to go up and down the stairs in order to access the gym floor. And I was leaving and so was she. She was on her phone, walking very slow down the stairs and kind of dragging her feet, knowing that there's a line of people, because I was the first person behind her and then there was 2 guys behind me. There was a line of people that wanted to access the staircase. Now, it's a pretty large staircase. she was hoarding up the entire center of it to make it impossible to go around her. And I found that to be very bad social awareness. Now, some could say, oh, she probably didn't know you were behind her, whatever. She did not have her headphones in. And we were very much there. Like, it was very obvious that we were there, and she just didn't care. She wanted to put one foot in front of the other in a slow manner, be rude, be on her phone. She was like answering a text back. And I ended up, when we turned the corner, there's like another side of the staircase that the people that go up go down. I actually went down that particular one because she was taking up the entire staircase. That is very rude and very bad social awareness. Learn how to move out of the way. It kind of reminds me of like when you're walking down a hallway in high school and somebody will be walking directly towards you and it's as if they're going to walk into you, and then you kind of move out of the way so that they don't bump shoulders with you. Isn't that so crazy that people refuse to move out of the way for you when they know they're going to go into you? That is very bad social awareness, and it's very disrespectful. I do not like that type of behavior. And I have gotten to the point now where I do speak up because it's very weird to me. Like, if that were to happen to me again with that woman at the gym, I would say, excuse me, pardon, we're trying to get through, or hey, can you move over? Like, just kind of giving them the heads up that like their behavior is not going to be pandered to. I will not pander to your behavior. A lot of people like that have gotten away their entire life with doing this to people. They are used to being the center of attention. They are used to doing shitty things and people not speaking up, but they have now met their match because I will speak up. I will say something. Or when someone just walks into a door and doesn't hold the door open for you when they know that you're directly behind them. That is bad social awareness. That is not being a respectful person, and it's just not being aware of your surroundings. If you know that there's someone behind you, hello, hold the door open. If you're driving 45 in a 50 in the left lane, get over. If you're walking down a staircase and you want to walk slow, move to the side. These are all things that a lot of people tend to do because they're self-righteous and because they're just rude individuals. And if you're someone who does this, maybe not purposefully, but you do it because you're just so used to being a dick, because a lot of the times we were raised to be very about ourselves and just self-focus and not consider others, now is the time to say, you know what? Let me do my best to be more considerate. These are all things that I think we all have possessed at some point in our life. And some people have possessed these more than others, and that is totally fine. But I really want you guys to look inward today and figure out how you can work on these things. I mean, being a better person, being a kinder person actually feels good. It feels amazing. And I want to always profess that on this podcast because it's not talked about enough how making these changes actually makes you feel like a better person. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye, everyone.